Hello there. In today's video, I want to explore what makes a product look like it's Japanese design. What are the specific aspects, the criteria, the associations that evoke the reaction for me personally to understand something as Japanese design? And can I derive rules or guidelines from my observations to turn an object that is not Japanese style minimalism into Japanese style minimalism? So if you want to join me on my exploration into Japanese design, then stick around. Let's go. All right, let's have a look. So for my analysis, I picked like several objects from some more or less known Japanese brands, and also just some random, not random, but Japanese styled projects from Behance. And I will go through these objects now to see if I can make sense of what makes them Japanese, right? So the first example here is from Muji. It's like a couch, and it immediately does feel Japanese to me. And I think one of the first reasons is the way the platform is built here. So it's really like a straight board with 4 simple legs or small little pillars that carry the board. And I think that is something just culturally that I would associate with Japan, because they have low tables. They sit traditionally while on the floor, very low tables. And I think what adds to the effect is that the pillow looks like it's not going beyond the wood frame, and also that it's just like very rough material. It's very tactile. I can really see the fabric and I want to touch it, right? And if we maybe look at the different side, I think that's also interesting. To me, it feels a little bit less Japanese. I don't know why. Maybe that's not Japanese generally, but for me, in my personal, yeah, and here, that's what I mean with the surface quality of the material, right? So these are really honest and authentic materials. I think that is definitely something that I associate with Japanese design. Let's have a look at another example. Again, Muji. This one is a little bit different from the other one in that the cushioning actually goes beyond the wood frame. And I thought this made it more Japanese in the last one. But at the same time here, I feel like because it goes beyond, it looks much more soft, right? And like a real cushion. And I think it's interesting that they decided to do like 2 layers in a sense, where they have the frame wrapped in a cushion and then added like a huge pillow on top of it. And I think in Scandinavian or Italian design, the second pillow would maybe be smaller, or there would be a way to integrate them into a single cushion pillow thing. But here, this is, I think, going back to the honest and authentic design. The shape of the angle of the legs really looks to me like one of these Asian gates, right, in the temples. But again, very, very straightforward wood, rough material, clear functionality, is very understandable in one session, in one look. Yeah, tactile material again. And it is different from the regular IKEA Swedish design, right, that we see that goes like in an S shape. Here we have a much simpler approach even, and also much more simple to manufacture, I would say, by having these stable wooden legs in an angle, but also much lower to the ground. So we're still like very grounded here. So this might be a cue for furniture specifically, that it's rather low in its impact or appearance. And the third example that I selected from Muji is this Mochi pillow, right? It's very, very soft and still very tactile because of its softness, but also because of the material, right? The color is very reduced, very quiet. It doesn't scream, right? It feels like natural, like very natural, like not necessarily earthy, but at least it doesn't feel like artificial or strange to have in my environment. It looks very comfortable, but also the way things are presented looks very Asian or Japanese to me. The people that they chose, not to make them the focus, not showing the head, right? That's like a purposeful decision they made. Let's move on to Yamazaki. So this is another brand, right? I think they do Japan-inspired design, also interior and all kinds of things. And this is like an umbrella stand. And I would say in particular, the design doesn't necessarily seem Japanese to me on first glance. It looks like a simple alu sheet metal frame where we have cut out pieces. So now I'm wondering, why is there a cutout? Is just to make things lightweight, to reduce the material? Or is there also the aesthetic decision to keep the umbrellas visible? Like the way I understand Japan, like the appreciation for objects, right? And the respect towards objects. I'm obviously stereotyping from a Western view of what Japan means and is. But the way I see it, that this could be like a framing the object gives meaning to it in a sense, right? It also gives attention to what's inside. We have, again, very reduced color palette, just white and black. But I think what even more strongly is, to me, Japanese in this whole thing is the way it's framed. So we have complete white background, right? A lot of negative space. And at the same time, it's not symmetrically arranged. It's like off center. It looks a little bit unbalanced. But overall, because of the overarching umbrella that goes to the right, I think it works still. But this to me is a way of showing, also depicting something in a Japanese way, right? So here there's already much more happening. I would say this is a little bit less Japanese style, even though also here, I think European brands would tend to try to keep the balance more by a more uniform distribution of objects in the background. But here it's very left-sided. The only thing that points right is the umbrella. I think it's an interesting compositional choice. Nice shots, for sure. Almost artistic. And we always have this material quality of the background visible as well, right? So this is a drip tray or something in there. That's nice, cool. Yeah, so I think what I would take from this example is composition and framing of an object can also help increase the perception of Japanese design. Again here, all right. Very pure, very white, right? Same limited color palette. We have this interesting combination between like white and wood again. So there's often this reference to nature. Especially here, this is like directly translated from a tree, right? So I feel like the association with wood is very immediate. And again, the way they show it, they use items that also create associations that to me feel Asian, at least. Even though these are cut straight, the whole thing still feels, doesn't feel rough or sharp. And I think this one is very similar in that it puts like a wood, again, natural material at forefront. But also the items that were chosen to depict the object with are all in line with what I would associate with Japan. We have rounded corners, right? And it also goes outwards, which is interesting, right? That's similar to how the bed platform was working with the legs and the couch, right? Example. This is the vacuum insulated pot from Duke Design Inc. They won the Good Design Award. I think I'm based in Osaka. And I think what we can confirm looking at this is the color palette, right? It's quiet, it's natural, it's not like in your face. There's no unnecessary graphic detail. And even though there are, let's say, clear stops and edges, they still feel soft. There is like some fillet there, some rounding. So I still feel like it's comfortable to touch this object in a sense. Interesting also to see that in comparison with this metal one, which I would say is much less Japanese styled than the other two. I think the color and the size, the proportions feel more Japanese to me than the ones on the left. This is more classical standard design. Yeah, the choice of colors is not very particular for any specific style, I would say. The next one is this branded Japanese vodka packaging. I think what we see here again is like a lot of white space in the graphic design, right? Tactility in the bottle itself, natural materials again, like from the wood to the clay pottery ceramics, right? And the paper even. It's not just clean white paper. This is like natural. You have some texture on the surface where it stands, some shadow. So I think all these elements work well together to create this Japan atmosphere. And here I think this is an American artist that tried to do something Japanese inspired, and I do feel like it works a lot. The shapes, right? The handcraft that is visible, the simplicity or purity of the shapes, but with a modern color twist. So I would say these are already a little bit louder than the previous examples that we had. So I feel like this is a modern reinterpretation of what Japanese minimalism would be. I like it. I think it's adds a nice touch to it, gives it a little bit more character, but maybe also makes it a little bit more Western in that way. But especially the ones on the right, I really like in terms of color, in terms of shaping. I think this was really well done. Looks great. Also, apparently you can download the keyshot scene in files. So if you're interested, go ahead. What's next? All right, we have this Moju water plant pot, I guess. Maybe it's smart, I'm not sure about it. From Andrea Ponti. So Andrea Ponti, I think they are Italian, but Japanese inspired, or at least they try to create something in the spirit of Japanese design. And I think they do that well here, right? Very simple geometries. We have a clear distinction between two materials, but both materials work better than in the example from, was it here? Yeah, than this, right? To me, this looks much more like quality, more refined. The black part has more depth or solidity, have weight to it, I would say, than in the other example. It looks less cheap. We have the reference through nature by default from what the function of this thing is. And I think this could even work better if they would have chosen wood. And now I've chosen two, let's say, more out there examples. So this is Rooki. This seems like a toy or a character design. And I'm not even sure if it's like strictly Japanese or intended to be Japanese, but that's what I associate with Japan, right? Also, there's this obsession with robots and characters, and the way it's depicted, like, I mean, even if it's a robot, I think the artist really did a good job keeping it soft. I feel like Japan has a very different understanding of robots, and they really see also humanoid robots not as much as a threat to society as we in the Western world do. And I think that really shows in this fun example of this toy robot. everything is soft, right? And yet it has a lot of character, and it's a really fun project for sure. Great work. And the last one, I'm not quite sure what it is, like a pot. Yeah, right, like these traveling pots. And what I find interesting, that again we have the softness, very clean and clear material separations, and yet the graphics that I applied also remind me of like the way Japanese comics often do, like these cyborg designs, Dragon Ball Z, right? Incorp, everything looked a little bit like this. The way the text is, and the soft edition of these items here, they don't just add onto the volume, they're like growing out of it. And what I also find interesting, okay, graphically, this we have a lot of negative space again, but we have an asymmetric design here. And this is interesting, right? Did it have to be asymmetric? What's the purpose of it? I just, for the sake of it, let's assume it must be like this. But to also highlight it in a way by having, let's say, two parallel lines that basically have a strong contrast to the angular line at the bottom, it's emphasized even further. So I think that was a particular design choice to create asymmetrical impressions. Okay, that was everything. Those were all the objects that I wanted to analyze. I hope I did get across what Japanese design feels like to me, and maybe you agree. If not, let me know, or if you have other ideas what I have missed. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. See you around. Thank you.